want something more. Then what time is it?
Don't you wanna do
Something different.
Don't you wanna be
Something different.
Don't you wanna show
Something different.
Don't you wanna see
Something different.
Then you need to do
Something different.
You may have
God bless you. God bless you. We welcome you again to the L.I.F.E show, Living in Faith Effectively. My name is Daryl Harris. I'm the host of this show, and
I'm White Trees Harris.
oh, she didn't even have to wait for me to do this. See, now she's getting used to it, so everything is
I
flowing
should-
wonderfully.
Yeah, now, hey.
Now you're good.
I get to say my own name.
You say your own name now. Don't have to worry about being introduced. That kind of sounds like she's a part of this show. I mean, that's what it just sounds like to me. Of course, you know, I'll probably hear about this.
Insert foot in mouth here.
You just did that, didn't you? Okay, and so where we want to start tonight is by just welcoming you all out here tonight. We always want to open up with just a shout out to WCR Radio. That's the Worship Center Radio. We're so grateful for them and their allowance of us coming on and just practicing the gift of conversation with those of you who are listening. Of course, my good buddy, my friend, Juan Johnson is here with us tonight, and we're just very grateful to have him. And of course, all of you. Look, we've got a very special show for you tonight, but even before we get started, let's see if I can remember this call-in number. That's 1-248-796-8241. Do I have it? Do I have it? My friend just gave me that soft handoff of a number 5, a combo piece. I'm grateful for it tonight. And so you could call in tonight, be a part of this show. We've got some great stuff going on. Of course, we're wishing everyone happy Valentine's
Happy
Day.
Valentine's
We
Day.
know that, you know, it's of the pagan gods and goddesses and all of that kind of stuff. But hey, just happy Valentine's Day. Take it for what it's worth, right? And because that is what weekend we are just kind of celebrating one another. Of course, I want to say that to my beautiful wife. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
We've been out all weekend and we're just celebrating one another and enjoying one another's company. And so we're kind of going to change the letter L in the L.I.F.E show for tonight. Right? Because generally what the L stands for is living, right? The L.I.F.E show, living in faith effectively. But tonight, we're going to change it to the L.I.F.E show, loving in faith effectively. Because we're going to talk to you tonight about relationships and love. And I'm going to be sharing with you tonight the inspiration behind my project, my relationship CD entitled Empathy, right? And we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to use scriptures and everything, just kind of balance everything out. I'm going to give you a sneak peek into some of the songs that are on the project. And hopefully, you know, not only will you enjoy the show tonight, but you'll go out to Amazon.com, just soft plug there, right?
Or
and pick
CD
it up.
Baby.
Or CD Baby, and pick it up for the low, low price of $1,276.50. That's without tax. And we'll make sure that
You might want to tell them the real price if you want to get some sold tonight. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So at any rate, go out there to Amazon.com, CD Baby, and there's some other places you can go. But we just want to talk about it tonight because everyone asked me, they said, why would you do a relationship CD? I mean, after all, you've been in ministry for years. You have preached for years. You lead a congregation. This is going on your 21st year of just Total Life Christian Ministries itself. And then you were doing this even before that. Why wouldn't you do a praise and worship CD? Or why wouldn't you do a gospel choir CD? Why wouldn't you do that? Why would you do a relationship CD? Well, for me, I did it because it was one of those areas that I felt was largely missing in church music, right? Or I should say in Christian music. Because it's not necessarily church music, but it's definitely Christian music.
I wouldn't play some of them songs.
I just
in
wouldn't
church
play
preaching.
some of these songs. I don't think you'll get away with it. In some churches you might, but we're just talking about
That's
the
a whole
ones that,
different
you know,
subject.
just right. That's a whole different subject right there, right? But, you know, it's not church music, but I wanted to make music for Christians to build relationships, and not just intimate relationships or whatnot, but friendships and relationships within community, right? All of that's important. You really can't talk about being a Christian without understanding that Christianity is largely about relationships. our relationship with God, his relationship with us, and our relationship with one another. As a matter of fact, what Christ actually says as he restates the importance of the commandments of God, he says that the first one is to love God, to be in relationship with him, and to love him with all that we have and with all that we are. And he says, and the second one is like unto it, that we love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And so we can begin to see that relationships are very important there. And I'm very grateful because I feel like what we have is not only a relationship, but it's something to be shared because it's a friendship.
Yes.
And the scriptures, kind of talk about how there is, over in Proverbs 18, verse 24, talks about how a man that has friends must first show himself friendly. But the latter end of that is so important. And there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And I know that that's not every friend. I know every friend is not your best friend. And every friend, is not your ride or die. And I understand that. But I believe that life can be pretty lonely if you don't at least have someone who has reached that level with you that they are a friend that sticks closer than a brother, right? And then that's who you are to me. You're that friend that sticks closer than a brother, and it's not the kind of superfluous friendship that's just ambiguous, it's just present, it's
Might
just
need a
there,
definition.
right? It's not that kind of loosely termed or non-connected,
Helping y'all out out there.
fictitious
There we go.
a kind of relationship or friendship, but it's been through something. And what I found out is that the strength of this scripture is really in the fact that in all other relationships that you have that are familial or with family members and all, the reason why friendship can be so much stronger than that is because there is no other connector there. Right. So for relationships, when you're in a family, you're connected by blood, right? You got cousins and brothers and sisters, so on and so forth. But siblings, there are times when, you're just doing things for them, not because you want to, but because that's your brother or that's your sister or that's your cousin.
Right.
And you're expected to because of the family tie.
Right.
But with friendship, it's so special because you have to want
That's
to
right.
be someone's friend. Nothing else is there. There's no bloodline necessarily that's there, any of that. You have to want to be there. You have to want to go through the tough times. You have to want to go through the trials and tribulations. You have to want to go through the conformings and all of those things that are present. And so I believe that when the scripture talks about that kind of friendship, that is what you really find that's special about a relationship. Because we're not just married, we're actually friends.
I agree. I think I was actually having this conversation earlier with some married women this week, and we were talking about the importance of being friends in a marriage and how sometimes, we get married and we think it's all going to be whistles and bells every day. But sometimes it's that friendship that is the only thing you had to lean on. When there are no whistles and there are no bells, we can still talk to each other. And after all is said and done, if you can't communicate with the person that you're with, it doesn't matter how good anything else is. We'll keep this family radio. It doesn't matter how good anything else is.
Yeah.
You still aren't going to be satisfied.
You know what she's talking about.
Y'all know what I'm talking about.
I
You're
like
not
you
going to
don't
be
know.
satisfied if you can't communicate with the one that you're with.
And I think that is so important. It's like the invisible strength of a relationship to be friends. And because we allow friends things that we don't even allow our family members. We allow friends the opportunity to completely mess up with us or to strongly hold us accountable for things. You can get into it with your brother, your sister, and there may be months or years to go by where you don't even speak to them. But your friend can mess up with you, and you'll be right back on the phone with them next week, or
Right.
a couple days or whatnot, because we allow friends that kind of space, right? And especially, I love what you brought up about the communication. Actually, kind of leads into one of the songs that I want to talk about tonight. This song is called "Something So Small," right? And it's a song that actually features my wife. We're in it together.
I'm not singing, don't worry.
We're in it. She's just fooling with you guys. She can't really sing, right? But we're going through this kind of dialogue because what we found out is that a lot of the stuff that we've argued about and fussed about and just gone through all of this anger about and let anger turn into rage, it was over stuff that was so small.
so small.
Stuff that was so simple that if we would have just walked away, cooled our heels, and then came back to talk about it, we would have seen how small it was to the whole river of our lives and our relationship.
Yes.
And so we're going to play a little bit of this for you. We're going to come back and talk about it in a moment. Again, White Trees, Daryl, Something So Small, Decent Music.
Why am I so angry? I can't believe I broke all this glass. And for what?
Was it really worth me putting my hands on her?
Why did I call him out of his name?
Why?
What were we fighting about again?
Was it even a big deal in the first place?
Something so small, I can't believe I let it take control of me. Something so small, just can't perceive. I let it waltz right in and knock me right off of my feet. Something so small, I let it take my joy and rob me of all of my peace. I'm just so lost because I gave my sanity to something so small.
Man, you better stop this before somebody gets hurt.
Girl, you know all this fighting just don't make sense.
Calm down, man. Just breathe.
Don't let this madness take over your mind. Think.
Yeah, just think.
Something so small, I can't believe. Can't let it make a fool of me. Something so small, just can't perceive. Can't let it sneak right in and knock me right off of my feet. Something so small, can't let it steal my joy and rob me of all of my peace. I can't be lost because I gave my sanity to something so small. To something so small. I can't.
Again, that's Something So Small, Decent Music on the project entitled Empathy. And, you know, what were you?
I think Juan likes this
That's
song.
my friend, everybody. So what were you thinking about, like, when I asked you to come in and do this song?
First, I was like, is he crazy? He wants me to do what? No. But when he told me the concept of the song and asked me to come into the studio after kicking and screaming, when I finally got there, it actually was really easy to do this song because we've been in this position, having been married 23 years and, I made it so you didn't have to say it.
Thank
this
you.
time.
I appreciate it. See, that's friendship.
And being together 29 years, we have definitely argued over some small things. And this was just a way to put into song form some of the things we go through in our minds when these things are going on. And I love the way, like, we're talking to ourselves and trying to talk ourselves out of, because that's really what it comes down to. It's that self-talk that can either take you away from an argument or get you further into an argument. And you got to watch your self-talk because you can talk yourself into some stuff that you can't get yourself out of.
Yeah. And I go by, this process of what I call stop, drop, and roll, right? Sometimes right before, you feel yourself really going towards the anger, because the thing is to stop it before it gets to rage. When it gets to rage, it is unstoppable. It's like a train that's already gathered up speed, and it's just nothing you can do to stop it, right? But if you can catch it while it's at that lighter anger where you can feel it, you can sense it, and you're still somewhat rational with yourself, rationally thinking. I think it's important at that point to stop, right? And then when I call it the drop portion is when you just kind of drop out of the whole conversation in that moment. And, ladies, I say, hold you guilty of this a lot more than men. But it can work both ways, right? A lot of times, this argument is going on, and men can kind of feel that they're going to this different place or this different zone. And before you know it, he's saying, you know what? Let me just go, right? And then she's jumping in front of the door saying, no, you can't go anywhere. You're going to stay here. You're going to talk to me. Well, I'm going to ask each of you to trust when a person says that they need to fall away or they need to fall back. That's important that you give them that space, because that's the moment when they may need to roll so that they can kind of change their thought process. Do that self-talk with themselves before they get to a position of rage or before they get into a place where that train is now taken off. And before you know it, you know that you're at that place where there's no turning back.
I agree, and you didn't have to talk about me publicly on the
I was
radio.
definitely, she's the sweetest thing ever. She would never.
But I definitely used to be that person that would jump in front of the door like, no, we're going to talk about this now. What do you mean you're about to roll? You about to see you don't care about me? You don't love me? What do you mean you about to leave, right? For me, that's just, I did not grow up dealing with things that way. And so because that's not the environment that I grew up in, I said, hey, we're about to handle this right now. This is how we do it. What do you mean you're not going to argue with me? That's just insane. That means you don't care. That means you don't love me. And I was projecting a lot of the feelings that I had onto my husband. And what I had to learn is him. I had to learn not him through my eyes, but who he is and how he deals with stuff. And it was very important. And, I learned the lesson a couple of times the hard way. My husband has never put his hands on me. But there have been some times where he's gotten angrier than I've ever seen him. And it was like, man, I probably should have just let him walk out the door, huh? Because it would have been better for us all. And so we've got to get to that point. On the flip side of that, just helping out the woman out there that's saying, but it is important though that when you walk out the door, I know as a woman, for me, that's not just the end of it and we never talk about it again. Right. It's important that when there is a space and a time when we come back together, that we can sit down as two rational people and sort of kind of debrief.
Absolutely.
What happened, and as we debrief what happened, we can figure out how we got there and figure out how not to get there again. Now, if you don't do this right, it could turn into another argument.
Right.
So you got to make sure that you argue fair.
Yeah, and I think that's so critical. I was definitely going to add that piece because I was an avoider, right? And that's how I grew up in terms of how to handle things. I was an avoider. I would just kind of leave things unsaid or unspoken, and that's not fair to anybody. Whether you're a spouse or you're a significant other, whether they have the kind of personality or temperament that needs to talk about it, or even if they themselves may be an avoider, it's still important that people take that opportunity to speak. And I think that was something that I had to learn for myself, to make sure that this is not just another subject or another argument that ended with no conversation, that ended with no rational point. And then when we do come back together, to make sure that we're not talking about holding on to what happened wrong or this, that, or the other, because sometimes, that's what a lot of men are afraid of. They're afraid of when we do come back to this conversation again, that I'm still going to be held guilty for whatever it was I did wrong in that moment, as opposed to, how do I get on? Because I'll just say it right out. Men don't deal with pain well. We just don't, right? And I'm not saying that, women, that's just what they do. But I am saying, when God chose which gender was going to be the one to be responsible for bearing children, he chose the toughest one as it deals with pain. because women can revisit it, they can talk about it and move on even while they're conversing. For men, we want to find the source of pain. We want to fix it so that nobody's hurting again. And we want to move on, right? And sometimes that creates a problem, a dilemma, just simply because it does not give, the opportunity for you to really heal in the way that you need to heal, which may be working it out as you're talking about it. And so finding that common ground to be able to do that, to be able to converse about something, point out, I statements, right? This is where I think that, I took a bad turn, or perhaps this is what, I'm feeling like I did. And, giving space to allow the other person to be able to say, well, that's not quite what I was feeling, but this is what I was feeling. I'm not saying that this is what you did. I'm saying this is what I was feeling in that moment. And then I believe that, using I statements and reframing and all those things gives us that space to be able to do it.
I think it's two greatest lessons that I've learned. A lot of people have heard me say this a lot, but two greatest lessons that I have learned in marriage and in life in general. One, I just came into the realization as the two of us have been going through this relationship. And that first great lesson that I learned was everybody is not like me.
Yeah.
I mean, and it seems really simple, but when you're growing up and you go through life, you kind of tend to think that people all think the same. And you don't say that to yourself. But when people don't do something the way you would do it, you're like, what's wrong with them?
Right.
Why didn't they do it the way it should be done like this? I mean, this way, didn't their parents teach them this? This is the way everyone does it. And as I got older, I started realizing not only does not everybody do everything like me, I wouldn't want that because then it would be a whole bunch of me's and that'd be really creepy. And
I agree.
you agree that that'd be really creepy? Watch yourself now. Watch yourself.
About myself. I said that was an I statement about myself.
And then B, I realized that just because people don't do things like me doesn't mean that they do things wrong. And I think that was the greater lesson because a lot of times people don't do things like me. And I would think something's wrong with that.
Yeah.
But just because somebody wants to do something a different way doesn't make it wrong. And those were two of the greatest lessons that I've learned, I think, through this marriage is that I need to appreciate who you are. Not who you are through me, but just who you are. And that you have your own way of thinking and your own way of doing things that sometimes, disagrees with how I would have done it. But it doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's so critical, right? And even kind of segueing into this next song, you mentioned something earlier about, so when we come back together after rationalizing within our own minds and everything, to have this conversation, making sure that this conversation doesn't go round and round.
Yeah.
Right? Making sure that this conversation
it's
doesn't
been
go in circles.
A lot of arguments that have been like part two.
Yeah.
Of the first
part
argument.
Two of the first argument.
And part three.
And it was like, we might as well have just went ahead with argument one.
Exactly.
And just gotten this all out in the
It's
open
been some
right
I'm
now.
sorry's that turned into the argument.
Right. You know. Yeah. I know you're sorry. I mean, all those kinds of crazinesses. Right. And so I think it's so important to understand that, to have a purpose when you come back to this conversation.
Yeah.
And the purpose that you want to have is to make sure that that's not circular. To make sure.
You mean it's not to blame the other person and prove that you was right all along?
Yeah,
that's not the purpose.
I know, in being right. That's what people want.
I got a famous saying.
Yeah,
right?
I love for you.
Do you want to be right or do you want to be married? Because sometimes married means accepting the fact that you are not right,
and and just accepting the fact that someone else may be righter.
I don't think that's a word.
I don't think it's a word either. But we're going to use it because this is the L.I.F.E show, and I'm the host, and so I can make up words if I want to. Right?
It's in the bylaws.
And so let's see if we can pull up this next song. Right, Round and Round is kind of giving that same kind of display about what not to do when you go back into this conversation and how to move your relationship forward.
that we both said I do. You asked the same question and you want no lies, but it's the same old fight we both had last night. Define insanity, and this is that. To do the same thing, expecting different. My head has been left, right, up, down, and you got me going round. Oh yeah. This way. Oh yeah. This way, no. Wait a minute, all this fussing is just not working. Everybody just shh. Now that's more like it. Gotta learn to let go, gotta learn to move on. If we ever plan to reach the end of this here song, otherwise same thing, different day. Can't live this way. What more can I say? Oh well, what the hey? Just guess you're bound to be this way. Got me going round. Oh yeah. This way. Oh yeah. And somebody, anybody, please tell me, how do I break out of this cycle? Don't wanna live life like this no more.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the Life Show. This is decent music that you're listening to here. This is Round and Round on the CD project entitled Empathy, our relationship CD. So what do you think about that, Round and Round?
I think the song spoke for itself. It's got some awesome lyrics there. But no, it's exactly what we said. It's important that we don't find ourselves just repeating the same arguments and repeating the same thing over and over again. One of our spiritual fathers used to always tell us that the presenting problem is never the problem, right?
The real problem.
And so a lot of times what we're arguing about is not the real problem anyway. So we're arguing about you left your toothbrush out of the toothbrush holder, and we're making a huge statement about this toothbrush and the toothbrush holder when really there's something deeper that we're not saying that we should be saying. And a lot of times that's how we end up going round and round, because we're not saying the thing that we really want to say.
Absolutely. I think that's so critical to just, the risk the intimacy, risk the honesty, risk the trust.
Exactly.
And it's so, because it's so intimate, right? And a lot of times, because especially men, again, that avoidance piece or that fixer piece, right? We will completely avoid what the real deal is going on, because we're just trying to end the argument. We're just trying to stop the fussing, because the truth of the matter is, we cannot win. I mean, just statistically, it's been proven, right? That our word usage, is, it is spoken that women can use up to 250 words, a minute. Whereas, men, we're struggling somewhere around 25, And so it is insane, for any man to really think that word for word, he can win an argument, and we shouldn't be thinking about that anyway.
Right.
We shouldn't be thinking about winning an argument. What we should be, and we shouldn't be thinking about ending an argument.
Right.
What we should be thinking about is improving our relationship.
Yes.
Improving our marriage. How do we take this disagreement and use creative tension, right? And bring about an end that is going to benefit us. So that even when we look back on the disagreement, it's almost like we're grateful that it actually happened and it came out, because it really brought something out of us that kind of leads us into this next song, right? It talks about this togetherness, right? It brings us into this togetherness. And I always say, when I am dealing with premarital counsel for a couple, or even a marriage counsel, I'm always sharing with them that, my job is not to remove all disagreements from your relationship.
Exactly.
Because truthfully, you're going to need that in order to grow stronger with each other, right? And so I think that, disagreements have a way of pulling us closer together if we handle them correctly. If we create a model to know how we converse with one another, so that we're not so much offended by a disagreement or see it as a challenge, but that we see it as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to grow, to have some discussions that we may not have had
Right.
had everything just been all right.
Exactly.
But it's really intimate space, and it's a great space to be in order to pull together even stronger.
I agree. I think some of the greatest things that I have learned about you has been during times where we've had this creative tension that you call it, or this time when I had to trust my feelings with you, and I had to allow you to trust your feelings with me. And I think it's a difficult thing because we grow up guarded, and as women, I can speak to this. We grow up a lot of times either we're raised by single women, or we're raised by maybe a woman who's been divorced, or someone who may be on a second or a third marriage. They have had their own experiences with men, and sometimes they raise their girls based on those experiences. And we become real independent as women, and there's only so much that we want, to allow ourselves to trust. And sometimes what we find when we do that is that because there's not that trust that we're supposed to have, that's how we keep bumping heads, because we're not really saying what needs to be said. The Bible says, because we got to put some Bible somewhere in here, so people, got to put some Bible back in here. But the Bible tells us that the two become one, right? But we don't really understand what that means, because the two becoming one doesn't mean the two become me.
Right.
The two becoming one doesn't mean the two become you.
Right. Doesn't mean that the two become the same.
Exactly. It means that as a sort of like a melting pot, we come together into our own existence of each other, that brings us together.
Yeah.
And it's that togetherness that makes us.
Yeah.
So it's like the me and the you become us.
Yes.
And a lot of times people think that means that I have to lose me.
Right.
Or they think that you have to lose you. And that's not really it either, because that's not the two becoming the one that Christ intended.
Right.
What really happens is all of me and all of you. I know that's a secular song, but just go with it. And we all come together to make this us. And that's the one. And so now as a unit, we become together, and it's that together unit that makes our marriage. And I think that's what's so important.
I think that's so important as well. We're building us. We're not building you.
Exactly.
We're not building myself.
Right.
We're building us.
Right.
And that is what a family is.
And that
We're
is what a
building
family
us,
is.
Right?
Now, in doing that, I still need to build me.
Absolutely.
And you still need to build you.
Right.
And that makes it even greater us.
Yes. And I think that that's the part that a lot of times gets lost.
Yeah.
Because people don't understand. It's like, well, so where do you stop and I come in, or where,
Right.
what do I do for myself? And it's like, yeah, there still obviously are things that you do that strengthen you, because strengthening you
Strengthens us.
strengthens us.
Yes.
Right? But the things you do to strengthen you is not to build you as an individual. But you're looking at those things as you're strengthening yourself. You're looking at strengthening those things that you can bring to the table that
Yes.
strengthen us,
Yes.
and not just you.
Exactly.
If you create that kind of win-lose situation, then you won't. That's not together.
Exactly.
No one should lose.
Exactly.
Now, if someone's going to lose, then we both should lose, because we're us.
Exactly.
Right. And
Exactly.
so, if we're going to create the kind of model that says, "Hey, win-win here," then that means very simply we need to concentrate on the purpose, and the goal is together.
That's right.
Look, 248-796-8241. That's our number. You can call in. We're going to play this song for you. It's decent music, Together, on the Empathy Project. Jesus says, if two shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of the Father. For where there are two or three gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst. Come on. If one can put 1,000 down, 10,000 would fall to the ground. If you come together, if
go together, yeah, all that you need is at the altar. The strength you need so you won't falter. When you go together, you should be together. Under all this anointing power. Under all this anointing power. Your lives could change this very hour. If you move together. Come on and receive. Receive this together. Some things you can't get done. Some things you can't get done alone. Not by yourself. But Christ has grace to right the wrong. If you pray together, you must come together. All that you need is at the altar. The strength you need so you won't fall. When you go together, you should be together. If one can put 1,000 down, 10,000 would fall. 10,000 would fall to the ground. If you come together, if you go together, let's find our healing place. Together, let's get our joy. Let's get our joy today. Together, let's go to seek His face. Let's go to seek His face. Together, receive His love and grace. Receive His love and grace. Together, let's find our healing place. Let's find our healing place. Together, let's get our joy today.
Again, that's Decent Music with the song track Together on the Empathy Project. We're very, very excited about this song. I wanted to make sure to put on the project a song that was very specific to togetherness, and I wanted to make it the last song. Actually, if you listen to this project all the way through, when you get to Together, stay tuned afterwards because there's actually a prayer that comes along with this song, and it's just a wonderful worship piece. And I know a lot of times people are like, it's a relationship CD and everything. I wanted this song Together to really be in the fashion of something. This is probably one of the only songs on here where I would literally feel comfortable doing in a church setting, because it is about togetherness. And I'm not just speaking about intimate couples, although they're definitely included.
Right.
But I imagine even in a lot of times when I write a song, I write in a video sense, like what a music video would look like.
Exactly.
With it. And I imagine this song with, having a couple that just got into it show up at church, but they're sitting on the different sides of the sanctuary because they're really upset with each other.
Right.
Right. And then you've got these friends, right? And they've been friends, 2 or 3 friends. They've been friends forever, right? And now they're upset about something. So they come in and they're kind of looking and glaring at each other, right? And then you've got children, siblings who are doing the same thing. And then I'm up on stage and I'm kind of singing this song. And before you know it, everyone is making peace with each other and they're coming to the altar and we kind of pray together because that's the way that I feel that it should be. We've got a caller on the line. Thank you so very much for calling in. Why don't we tell us your name right now and then make your statement?
Hello.
Hello, are you there? I think we lost you.
Hello. Are you going to say anything?
Hello, we see you, caller. We recognize you. Are you there?
Listen to your phone, not your radio. I think they're listening to their radio. The radio is delayed.
Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to just keep on moving. Maybe you can hang up and call us back after you work out the technical difficulties that you may be having right now. And so, the Together, it's so vital. It's so very important to us. And I think that should be the goal. And I think that is what changes in your life when you come to this recognition that you are married, that the goal is what changes for you. And suddenly you recognize that the goal is togetherness. That
Yes.
the goal, just because you got married doesn't mean that you're still together.
That's right.
And we hear oftentimes when we're providing counsel to people that, I don't know where our relationship grew apart, or I don't know where our marriage came to. We were still living in the same house, and we still had our rings on, but we could tell a long time ago that,
Right.
we had quote unquote fallen out of love,
Right.
And I think that really what that says is that somewhere, when you got married and the actual ceremony happened, you started off on a path together, but you didn't work hard to stay together. And I think that that is so vital. And so
And I
important.
think that's good because a lot of times when people get married, they sort of think that that's it. Like the wedding is it, and now we're married, and things just sort of fall into place. And they're surprised that they still have to work on their marriage. And they're sometimes disheartened because, we grow up, especially us as women, we grow up with these fairy tales that say we just going to live happily ever after. And that's just what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And I think even when we're in God, we believe that fairy tale even more because we believe somehow delusionally that because I'm saved and you're saved, that means that all of our problems are going to be fine. And, that we're just going to come together and we're just going to pray about every situation.
And God's going to fix it.
And God's going to fix it. And that's just it. And so anytime we have an argument, we're just going to pray. And, I'll be the first to say when we're in a heated disagreement, sometimes the very last thing I think about doing is praying.
Right.
Don't
really want to take this
and
to
it's
God.
like, God, right now, I don't want to pray for him because, I feel like Jonah, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to pray for him because I know you're going to forgive him. Then you're going to tell me I'm wrong. Then you're going to tell me I got to say I'm sorry. And then you're going to tell, and I want to be
versa.
right, and your selfishness is going to step up. I mean, and it happens in any kind of relationship. And so we need to understand in marriage, you got to fight, even if you're a Christian in marriage, and especially if you're a Christian in marriage, when you're going through, you have to make sure that you don't think that it's just going to come together.
Right.
But you have to fight for it to come together.
And the importance of this song to me is, that's why I'm just saying staying together as a part of coming together again. Because I want us to use disagreements as not a breakup,
Yeah.
but I want us to use disagreements as a strength to stay together.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of coming back together, because then that means that we took a break in the first place.
Yeah,
Right? And so
yeah.
we don't want to take a break. We don't want to mentally break off. We don't want to verbally break off. We want to make sure, that we are using everything to stay together.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because that's what men do. We just break off.
Right.
We just disconnect. I found myself in a situation today, taking her shopping and just, completely had disconnected, right? And so she's having this conversation.
Like
I
all
don't
my
know.
friends are falling out. Like,
Yeah, I
she
don't-
went, what? Yeah, I went shopping today. I don't usually shop.
Right. And I had said something, earlier on. She was talking to me actually, and I was disconnected. I don't, got this one track brain, right? And I was doing something else, and she just started talking, and I tried to catch in on the latter end of this conversation, right? And so I ended up restating something that she had mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, and I was like,
Kind of
uh-oh.
proved he wasn't
Right.
listening.
And I wasn't, there was no way around it. There was no reason for me to get all upset and disconnect and get all discombobulated and everything. I just didn't. Now, truthfully, I was going somewhere. However, her point at pointing out to me that it was just a sign that you really weren't listening to me because, and so then, I had to go back later on. It's like, okay, because she's right about this part. There's no need to getting upset about this. She's right. No need of disconnecting. And so my whole point became after that, because she's learning me, even though 23 years, 29 years of togetherness, she's still learning me. I'm still learning her. Right. And so that was a great moment to not come back together again, but to use that opportunity as a strength to stay together in
Yes.
that. And a lot of times I think that's why the arguments beat us. And that's why the fussing beats us, because we break apart and then we try to come back together as apart from understanding, no, this argument and this debate, we need to stay together in order to survive it.
And it's dangerous when you're apart, right? Because that's when your mind will play tricks on you. See, he don't love me anyway. And shoot, he'll never listen to me. And blah. And before you know it, you have made it way huger than it had to be in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that is really powerful about togetherness is just a commitment that we made in the beginning that I don't think a lot of people make anymore.
Yeah.
And that is to really take our vows seriously.
Yeah.
It's when we got married, and I told you, when we got married, look, you're going to be stuck with me. So you better be sure this is what you want to do, because divorce is just not an option, right? Yeah. And so whatever it is, if we get married, we've got to work our way through it. And we both agree to that. And there's been times in our marriage when, that's easy to say when you're not going through anything,
right. Right.
But there's been times in our marriage where I had to remember what I said and remember
and vice versa.
What I promised God and remember what I promised you.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I said I would work through whatever it is. And even when I didn't know what it was, I still made that promise. And I think a lot of times now we have a lot of people, when it gets a little hard, people walk away because they have given themselves an option to walk away.
Yes.
But when you don't give yourself that option to walk away, when you really truly believe God can work through anything, no matter what it is, no matter what the pain, no matter what the hurt, that if you just trust God, that He will work through it with you, then you don't break apart so easily.
Exactly. I agree. And I think that what you're saying, because what you're talking about is kind of how the King James Version really talks about couples when they come together.
Yeah.
Right? Calls them helpmates.
Yeah.
And you get terms like partners, right?
Right.
And if you know anything about a helpmate, I don't need you if you can't help me. That's what you're committing to.
Right.
You're making a covenant to help me.
Yes.
Not just to be there, but to help me.
Right.
I'm making a covenant to God to help you. Now, see, we don't really listen to that, because if I'm making a covenant to help you, it must be an area where you need help.
That's right. That's right.
Right? And so if you're struggling with something that is blocking you from really being successful or effective in life, in your walk with Christ, if that's something, then it is my duty, my job to help you. That's my covenant. That's my desire.
Right.
And vice versa, right? And so a lot of times, because we don't look at it in that partnering kind of way, or we don't look at it in that I am here to help, we don't look at it like that, then when problems arise, or when situations arise in your spouse's life where they may actually need some help in that area, we're ready to just throw the towel in and say, hey, because that's not what I was expecting. And that's what I found out. Lots of people are getting married not with the ideology that they're going to be helping a person to grow.
They trying to get help.
And then that thing becomes, or they're trying to dictate, they're trying to control, they're trying to make something, right? And I think it's so important. When you come in as my helpmate, you show that you appreciate who I am right now. Not to fix me, but you appreciate who I am right now.
I just had this conversation. You can't marry somebody for their potential.
Exactly. you can't marry someone that you're going to fix.
Exactly.
We're not a Lego set.
I like that.
We're not pieces that you just get. We're not an Etch-a-Sketch.
If you don't love me for who I am now, then maybe I'm not the one.
Maybe I'll write a song. We're not an Etch-a-Sketch. I don't know.
I can't shake it up.
Yeah, I can't just shake it up. When I don't like what I see, or because one of the lines went crooked. I can't just shake it and it just just disappears and start all over. Right. And so I think that's crucial. So the purpose, the goal, is being together, staying together. Paul says something, and right now it just came to my mind. I don't really remember what it is right now. But he talks about how he's at the end of his life, right? And how he's glad to be at this stage, because to live is Christ and to die is gain. And he says, I have run a good race, right? I finished my course. And then he ends with this part: I kept the faith.
That's right.
And that's how he knew that the race was over, that the course was done. Because when he showed up, he started out with Christ, given a package of faith. And when his life came to an end, he still had that faith. Now, it might have been beaten up, might have some scratches on it, some
Right.
Mars and everything from dropping it a few times or whatever. But when he got to stand before the Lord, he still had that faith.
Yeah.
And that's how I like in a marriage, a
Yeah.
relationship, is that when we start off together. We're given this package of trust and faith in this marriage. We're giving it together. And when we finish this course, we should still have it.
That's right.
We should still have this partnership. And now, hey, it might have some bruises on it. We might have dropped it a few times, might have peeled back some of the paper or whatnot.
Right.
But it's still intact.
But it's still
intact. Look, I want to end with just one more song. We're running out of time here. Didn't get a lot of calls, but I just want to end with this one song here, right? It's a song.
It makes me blush every time I hear it.
We're going to come back and talk about it the next time that we come together on the show this month. Minister to Me, right? My wife, when she first heard this song, she said,
He
"What
sound like Prince.
on earth were you thinking? What were you thinking?" And I answered her with a smile on my face. I said, "I was thinking about you." Now, that's the truth, right? And so we'll talk about
I think
this
I'm
song
blushing.
a little bit
I'm blushing
later.
now, aren't I?
We're going to talk about this song a little bit later, but right now, let's just play a piece of it for you, right? Because Minister to Me is really about something that, it's the intimacy of a relationship. I don't know why people think that Christians aren't intimate. I don't.
It's a family show, though, preacher.
That's
Family
right, and that's why I'm using the word intimate.
Okay,
right? That's
all
I'm
right.
using that, right?
All right.
Because I'm paying attention to that, right? It's intimate, right? And intimacy is a part of
It
what
is.
you get married for.
It is. I will agree.
And so, look, we're gonna play this song, right? Piece of this song. We're gonna come back in a few moments we have left and talk to you just a little bit more. Minister to Me.
I fall down at the altar of your love. Descend on my brokenness as a gentle dove. My body, soul, and spirit needs the deliverance of your touch. Be my sacrifice, resurrect my life. I need you to just minister to me. I know you may not feel like this appeal is truly ministry, but I promise that every word I say is in the Bible. You can check and see. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 4, that one flesh we ought to be. So I hope and pray you'll believe his word today, because I need you, I'm begging you to please. I fall down at the altar of your love. Please descend on my brokenness as a gentle dove. My body, soul, and spirit needs the deliverance of your touch. Be my sacrifice, resurrect my life. I need you to just minister to me.
Look, that is the song Minister to Me. Don't look
That's
at my
the
wife
song.
right now.
Don't look at me right
It's
now.
all good, right? It's all good.
Just don't even look at me.
We're away for the weekend, so it's all good.
Hallelujah.
It's all good. Look, we've only got a couple minutes here.
Praise the Lord.
We thank you all so very much for tuning into the show. Can we just end with a word of prayer?
Definitely.
I know it's going to be kind of difficult,
Yeah.
Minister Me is going out.
Yeah.
But I think we can get through this together.
Together.
It's really something so small,
It is.
and we don't have to go round and round.
We could just,
Let's just pray about it. Father, we thank you so very much for each and every listener tonight. And I pray for those in particularly who are in marital relationships, those who are already there, and those who are embarking upon marriage. I pray
Yes,
that
Lord.
you would give, through this program, wisdom and knowledge and understanding and discernment, that they'll be able to navigate through their relationship, being partners with one another, and that the same relationship that they started with in the faith is the same that they'll finish with
Yes,
when they
Lord.
come to its end. And we bless you for them in Christ's name and for his sake. Amen.
Amen.
Look, this has been the Life Show, Loving in Faith Effectively
That's
tonight.
right.
We want to wish you all again a happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's
Thank
Day.
you so very much again,
I
sweetheart.
love you,
Can I have a
sweetie.
kiss?
You sure can.
All right.
Mwah.
Thank you for that.
We had to
Look,
make it loud for the radio.
that's it. We want you all to know it's just a kiss. We're going away. We'll see you all a little bit later. Right, that's minister to me, and we're going to
Stop
see
it.
you all later. Right, I'm done. I'm going to see you all later. God bless you. We'll see you next week at the appropriate time. We love you till then.
Love you. Good night.